It is time to count down the favourites. So I have narrowed down my favourite books of the year down to 8. Just before I begin, quick question of the day, please do let me know what your favourite book of the year is. I'm trying to broaden my horizons and find more books all the time, so please do let me know. This is in no particular order, actually, that's a lie, yes it is. Let's start with my favourite of the year. Cress by Marissa Meyer, obviously. This is the 3rd instalment in the Lunar Chronicles series, and my favourite of the series so far. These books just get better and better for me as they go on. I don't know how she manages to outdo herself with every book, because they are just so good! It was so exciting, so fast paced, never slow down, I couldn't put it down. A lot of my favourite characters of all time are in this series. I just can't recommend it enough. Definitely my favourite book of the year. My next favourite book of the year is We Need to Talk About Kevin by Lionel Shriver. I still don't know how to say her name, I'm very sorry. This book is in the form of a very, very long letter from a woman to her estranged husband. It's about a mother and just her very disturbed son and their relationship and how it's just very quite disturbing at times, really psychologically fucked. The characters aren't the most likeable, but I don't think you're supposed to like them that much. They're not the most relatable, but that does make for a very interesting read. It is a very heavy book. It's really heavily descriptive, so it's quite slow, but I didn't really mind. I still managed to get through it fairly quickly anyway. Very, very interesting book. Definitely made me scared to have kids. So the next book is Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. I discussed this in last month's wrap-up, I do believe. I love this book. It is YA romance about Eleanor and Park, a very unexpected pairing and them coming together and falling in love. Nothing about it was contrived or fake, it was totally believable. It felt really genuine. I felt like I was reading about real people, which I love. It had the perfect mix of romance and warm fuzziness, and it also had a much darker element that was quite unexpected for me, but made it really realistic and definitely made it feel like a journey that you were going on with the characters. So I loved it. I thought it was great. I would recommend it if you haven't read it already. So another one of my favourites is also by Rainbow Rowell, and that was Attachments. This is in a really interesting format. It is written in the form of emails between two ladies and from the perspective of a man. They all work in the same office but they've never met, so I'll just leave it there. I don't want to give too much away, but it is a romance. It's also adult. I'm not really sure why it's adult. I think it could be enjoyable for young adults as well, probably because it's in an office setting. But as someone who just started full-time work, I loved it. I thought it was fabulous. The characters were so likeable. I can't even get over how Rainbow Rowell writes such different, varied, lovable characters. I just love them. I don't know how she does it. She's a genius. Incredibly sweet book. Definitely one of the most satisfying endings to a book ever. Loved it so much. So the next book is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This did take me a very long time, but it was worth it. This is obviously about a circus that comes out at night. It travels around the world, and it's about a kind of duel, a competition between a man and a woman. That's all I'll say. This was a fairly slow book. It does build up very, very slowly to a massive climax that I loved. I was just in love with the ending. The writing was so incredibly rich and stunning and just so beautiful. It really, really makes you feel like you're in the world. I found the characters quite bland at first, but as the book went on, the more I loved them. Definitely the biggest grower of a book. At first I was like, and then I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. So next is Highfidelity by Nick Hornby. This is from the point of view of a British middle-aged man called Rob. Very negative, very bitter. He's gone through a horrible breakup that he obviously didn't want to happen, and he kind of starts the book by going through all his different breakups and ex-girlfriends, and I found this so entertaining. Just his observations about life and his previous experiences were hilarious. I loved it so much. I thought he was so funny! It was really refreshing to read from this kind of character, because I read a lot of YA, a lot of it's from female, young people's perspectives. It's definitely a refreshing read and very sweet in the end, really satisfying. I really liked it. So next I have a graphic novel, and it's Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. This was a massive surprise in many ways. It's incredibly mature, it's definitely adult. It's quite unusual to read something that's so short and so epic at the same time, which I really enjoyed. It's very satisfying. terrifying, and I'm really excited to pick up the rest of the series. I thought this was really entertaining, definitely a must for any graphic novel lovers or sci-fi lovers or people who love reading about crazy imaginative worlds. And it's really humorous the way that the artist and the writer have gone about making the world. It's so different from anything I've ever read. I only gave this 4 stars because I didn't feel a massive connection to the characters, but I still adored it. So my last favourite book of the year is Intensity by Jean Koontz, which I read as an ebook. This is an amazing thriller with dual perspectives from a young woman and a serial killer. Their stories may or may not be interlinked. I'll leave you to guess that for yourself. This is such an exciting thriller. I loved it so much. It was so well done, so incredibly well written and tense. It's all in the name. It was just so interesting. It was so incredibly clever and I loved it. If there are any fans of thrillers and you haven't read this, I would definitely recommend considering picking this up because I think it's definitely one of the best I've read. This is up there with Gillian Flynn. So that is it. Those are all of my favourite books of the year. I would love to know what your favourite book of the year is again. Do leave me a comment down below and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Goodbye!